Mike Tyson has officially shattered his legendary status, swapping it for something far less dignified. If you haven't heard yet, the former boxing icon was caught celebrating alongside Jake Paul at Donald Trump's inauguration. Yes, that Jake Paul, the same one Tyson once claimed he would have to handle and hurt in the ring. The man who built a career on YouTube antics was now being hoisted onto Tyson's shoulders in a scene that quickly spread across the internet, leaving fans reeling from what felt like a colossal betrayal. For the past year, the rivalry between Tyson and Paul was dangled in front of the public, fueling speculation, excitement, and even hostility. Fans believed there was genuine bad blood between them, only for it to be exposed as a farce. To make matters worse, Paul tagged Tyson as his best friend on Instagram, rubbing salt in the wound. The betrayal runs deep, and the more one examines their actions, the clearer their motives become. It was never about legacy or competition, it was about money. There's already speculation that their fight was rigged. Many fans placed hefty bets, only to walk away with significant losses. The accusations of foul play have only grown louder as footage from the event circulates. A boxing legend facing off against a social media personality was already a bizarre matchup, but when their post-fight antics culminated in a celebration at a political event, it felt less like a sporting contest and more like a scripted reality show. A legendary boxer, a YouTube influencer, and a former president walking into the same room. It sounds like the setup to a bad joke, but that's exactly what happened. The entire situation has left fans questioning whether Tyson's involvement was ever genuine. It seems more likely that he was simply cashing in on a lucrative opportunity. The legacy of one of boxing's most feared champions was seemingly sold off for a payday, and fans were left feeling manipulated. It all began with the so-called boxing match between Mike Tyson, a man whose mere presence once instilled fear in his opponents, and Jake Paul, whose most notable achievements involve pranks and online controversy. The fight took place at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, a venue known for hosting true sporting legends. Instead, it was transformed into the set of a reality television special. The outcome was suspect from the beginning. Jake Paul, a man who spent most of his career entertaining YouTube audiences, was somehow awarded a unanimous decision over Mike Tyson, a former heavyweight champion. Throughout the fight, Tyson appeared more confused than aggressive, raising eyebrows about the legitimacy of the match. Fans immediately began questioning whether the result had been predetermined, with many pointing out that the entire event felt scripted. There was already skepticism leading up to the fight. Paul had been vocal about his confidence in securing a victory, while Tyson had issued warnings about the pain he intended to inflict. Tyson's words, "I think I'm going to hurt him," were bold but ultimately meaningless when he failed to back them up in the ring. Meanwhile, Paul, ever the showman, claimed he would knock Tyson out, a statement that seemed laughable until it happened. The weigh-in provided yet another strange moment. Paul, in an apparent accident, stepped on Tyson's foot, which earned him a half-hearted slap. The moment, which should have been a tense exchange, felt more like an exaggerated scene from a scripted drama. Tyson's infamous death stare made an appearance, but Paul's over-the-top reaction stole the show. Watching it unfold was like witnessing a poorly rehearsed theater performance, with both men playing their assigned roles to perfection. By the time the fight actually began, anyone paying close attention could see that the event was less about boxing and more about entertainment. Tyson, once known for his ferocious intensity, looked hesitant, while Paul, often dismissed as a social media sideshow, seemed unusually confident. When the final bell rang and the judges declared Paul the winner, many spectators were left wondering if they had just witnessed one of the biggest scams in boxing history. Then came the moment that truly sealed the deal. After supposedly engaging in a fierce battle, where Tyson and Paul had traded punches and harsh words, the two were spotted together at Donald Trump's inauguration party. Instead of recovering from their so-called war, they were laughing, drinking, and taking pictures like old friends. The most shocking image from the event was Jake Paul lifting Mike Tyson onto his shoulders, with Tyson raising his fist in triumph. The scene was surreal. Was this the same man who had promised to hurt Paul just days earlier? Paul, never missing an opportunity for attention, captioned the photo "Best Friends" and tagged Tyson. It was a moment that erased any remaining doubt. The rivalry had been staged. What had once seemed like genuine tension between the two was nothing more than an elaborate performance, designed to sell tickets and generate buzz. Fans who had invested emotionally in the fight were left feeling like they had been played. The situation only worsened as people dissected the fight in the days that followed. Many pointed to footage showing Tyson pulling punches and Paul appearing unusually confident against a man who once dominated the heavyweight division. Theories about a leaked script began circulating, fueling speculation that the fight's outcome had been predetermined. Social media was flooded with posts exposing inconsistencies, and boxing analysts weighed in with their own doubts about the legitimacy of the match. For fans who had held on to hope that Tyson was still the same fierce competitor he once was, this was a painful reality check. The man who once symbolized raw power and intimidation had now been reduced to playing a character in a money-driven spectacle. His endorsement of Jake Paul as a very good fighter only reinforced the belief that everything about the fight had been staged from the beginning. The most disappointing aspect of this entire ordeal is what it represents for the sport of boxing. Tyson and Paul didn't just deceive fans, they disrespected the integrity of the sport itself. Instead of honoring boxing's legacy, they turned it into a farce. For Tyson, a man who once held the title of the baddest man on the planet, this was an especially tragic fall from grace. Ultimately, the biggest winners of this fiasco were Tyson and Paul themselves. They walked away with millions of dollars while fans were left questioning their loyalty to a sport that continues to be tainted by spectacle and greed. The entire event serves as a reminder that, in modern boxing, narratives are often crafted not in the ring but behind the scenes. The biggest fight wasn't between Tyson and Paul, it was between truth and deception won by unanimous decision. Mike Tyson, once the most feared man in boxing, has officially ripped off the legend label and swapped it for clown status. And trust me, this isn't an exaggeration. If you haven't heard yet, the man was caught partying with Jake Paul at Donald Trump's inauguration. Yes, that Jake Paul. The one he supposedly hated. Remember when Tyson boldly declared, "I think I'm going to have to handle this situation. I'm going to knock him out. I think I'm going to hurt him." Well, that all seems like a bad joke now. Fans are left picking up the pieces of their shattered trust. Tyson and Paul spent the entire last year dangling a fake rivalry in front of us, playing with our emotions like master manipulators. And now, after the so-called fight, a clip of Jake lifting Tyson onto his shoulders like a gym bro broke the internet for all the wrong reasons. Paul even tagged Tyson as his best friend on Instagram, rubbing salt into the wound. The betrayal runs deep. It's no surprise that speculation about the fight being rigged is running wild. Many fans placed bets, believing Tyson would obliterate Paul, only to watch what looked more like a scripted sparring session. Some lost thousands, leading to accusations that the fight was nothing more than a staged money grab. When you mix a boxing legend with a YouTube troll and throw them into a spectacle hosted by Donald Trump, you don't get a fight, you get the biggest joke of the century. And make no mistake, this was all about the money. Tyson and Paul didn't step into that ring for honor or sport, they did it for a paycheck. And what a paycheck it was! The so-called Netflix boxing spectacle, now better known as the $60 million heist, raked in a fortune. Jake Paul, a man whose biggest weapon is his Wi-Fi connection, walked away with a staggering $40 million. Meanwhile, Tyson, the once unstoppable destroyer of the heavyweight division, settled for $20 million. That's $60 million for what a glorified reality TV episode dressed up as a sporting event. The hype leading up to the fight had fans believing in a true showdown. Tyson, once the most feared boxer on the planet, is talking tough. Paul, ever the loudmouth, vowing to knock out a living legend. And yet, when the bell rang, the fight itself was nothing more than a joke. Paul, a man whose previous biggest battle was against YouTube's algorithm, somehow got a unanimous decision over Tyson, who looked more confused than aggressive. A true fight hardly. The cracks in the facade began to show early. The pre-fight weigh-in was a circus. Paul accidentally stepped on Tyson's foot, earning a half-hearted slap that seemed more choreographed than real. Paul responded with a profanity-laced tantrum that looked straight out of a reality show script. By the time the fight began, everyone watching should have known this wasn't about boxing. It was about selling an act, a performance designed to separate fans from their money. Paul's antics throughout the event bordered on comedy. He promised a knockout. Instead, he delivered what looked like a sparring session against a man nearly 30 years older than him. Tyson, for all his pre-fight bravado, seemed hesitant to throw with any real force. The result: a match that had all the excitement of a scripted WWE segment. And just when fans thought it couldn't get worse, the post-fight celebrations proved that the bad blood was as fake as Paul's boxing credentials. Instead of the bitter rivalry they sold us, Paul and Tyson were spotted at Trump's inauguration party, laughing, clinking glasses, and posing for Instagram like long-lost brothers. Paul, ever the clout chaser, posted a picture of himself lifting Tyson onto his shoulders because nothing screams "we just had a brutal war" like partying together hours later. The caption: best friends. Best friends just days earlier, they were claiming to be mortal enemies. Now, they were celebrating together like frat boys at a college reunion. The backlash was swift and brutal. Fans who had bought into the drama felt conned. Comments flooded social media: "They played us for millions, rigged fight equals money and friendship, and we got scammed." Even those who illegally streamed the fight, yes, the people who didn't spend a dime, felt robbed of their time. When even the freeloaders are mad, you know you've reached a new level of deception. Of course, Jake Paul's PR team, MVP Promotions, was quick with the damage control. They released a statement reminding everyone that rigging a professional boxing match is a federal crime. Oh, great! Because reminding people that it's illegal totally proves they didn't do it, right? That's like saying, "I can't be a thief. Stealing is against the law." If anything, the statement only fueled the fire. Meanwhile, Paul is already scheming his next move. He's got a list of future opponents that reads like a desperate grab for legitimacy: Floyd Mayweather Jr., Ryan Garcia, and even UFC powerhouse Alex Pereira. That's right. The same guy who barely survived a fight against a 57-year-old now thinks he's ready to take on some of the greatest fighters in history. The audacity is almost impressive. And let's not forget about Tyson. The baddest man on the planet has officially completed his transformation into a walking punchline. This is the same fighter who once sent chills down his opponent's spines. Now, he's reduced to playing Jake Paul's sidekick in a viral stunt. From biting ears to cashing checks for rigged fights, Tyson's career has gone from legendary to laughable. If this was supposed to be his comeback, he'd be better off disappearing from the spotlight for good. So, was it worth it? Was $60 million enough to justify turning boxing into a meme for Tyson and Paul? The answer is clearly yes. They made their money and moved on. But for the fans, it's going to take more than a legal disclaimer to wash away the taste of this scam. This wasn't a fight, it was a financial mugging disguised as a sporting event. The real knockout punch wasn't in the ring. It was delivered to every fan who believed this was anything other than a scripted spectacle. Imagine being a lifelong Tyson fan, tuning in to see your hero reclaim his former glory, only to watch him get outmaneuvered by a guy whose biggest achievement is convincing people he can fight. Imagine being one of Paul's fans, actually believing he's revolutionizing the sport. Newsflash, he's not. He's just turning it into another soulless cash grab, complete with Instagram captions and viral soundbites. Tyson and Paul weren't opponents. They were partners in crime. The only people who got knocked out were the ones who believed this was ever about boxing.